The galaxy believed humans were weak. That belief would erase an empire. When the alien armada appeared without warning, most species in the galaxy would have surrendered within seconds. History proved that again and again. But humanity had never followed history. Humanity rewrote it. The research vessel UNS Horizon Dawn drifted silently near the edge of unexplored space, its engines humming low, almost peacefully. It was not a warship. It carried no visible weapons. To the galaxy, it looked harmless. Inside, 312 humans worked, laughed, argued, and dreamed. Scientists, engineers, linguists, and explorers who believed knowledge was the greatest weapon of all. Captain Rhea Calder stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the star-filled void. She had spent 22 years in space. She knew silence. She also knew when silence was about to break. It did. Alarms screamed. Lights snapped red. Space twisted. 72 massive alien warships tore their way out of faster-than-light travel, forming a perfect killing circle around the Horizon Dawn. Their hulls were jagged and dark, covered in glowing symbols that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Every human on the bridge froze. Lieutenant Marek swallowed hard. Captain, weapons locking detected. All directions. Rhea did not shout. She did not panic. She straightened. Open hailing channel, she said. The screen flickered. A towering alien figure appeared, taller than any human, skin like cracked stone streaked with gold veins, for glowing eyes set in a face that showed no emotion at all. "I am Overlord Zaroon of the Kalith Imperium," the translator said in a cold, emotionless voice. "You have trespassed into Imperial space. You will power down your ship. You will surrender your crew. Resistance will be punished." Around Rhea, fear spread like a disease. Some officers stared in disbelief. Others clenched their fists. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries. This was not the dream. Rhea stepped closer to the screen. "I am Captain Rhea Calder of the United Nations Stellar Fleet," she said calmly. "We are explorers. We did not know this space was claimed. We request peaceful dialogue." Zaroon's eyes narrowed. "Peace," he said slowly. "Every species begs for peace when faced with power. You are no different." The bridge felt colder. "You have one cycle," Zaroon continued. "At its end, you will submit. Your species will be catalogued. Useful individuals will serve. The rest will be eliminated. This is mercy." The screen went dark. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the fear hit. A junior officer whispered, "They're going to kill us." Another shook his head. "No, they'll enslave us first." Rhea turned from the screen and faced her crew. She saw terror. She saw doubt. But she also saw something else, anger. Quiet. Dangerous. "Listen to me," she said. Her voice cut through the noise. "We are not surrendering. Not today. Not ever." Marek stared at her. "Captain, we're a science ship. They outgun us 100 to 1. Rhea nodded. "I know." "So what do we do?" someone asked. Rhea walked to a sealed console near the captain's chair. It had no markings. Most of the crew didn't even know it existed. She placed her hand on it and entered a code she had memorized 15 years ago, a code she was told she would likely die before ever using. A message launched toward Earth through channels that officially did not exist. Hostile first contact. Demand for surrender. Kalith Imperium. Awaiting directive. The response came in under 4 minutes. 4 minutes to cross over 100 light-years. 4 minutes for humanity to decide its future. The message was short. Do not surrender. Initiate Atlas Protocol. Humanity stands. Rhea closed her eyes and let out a slow breath. Then she smiled. "What is Atlas Protocol?" Marek asked quietly. Rhea looked around the bridge. "This ship," she said, "is not what they think it is." Panels along the walls slid open. Sections of the floor shifted. Hidden systems came alive, humming with terrifying power. Energy readings spiked off the charts. This vessel was built to look harmless, Rhea continued. Just like our species. She met her crew's eyes one by one. Humanity learned a long time ago that the galaxy punishes weakness. So we prepared. Quietly. Patiently. Outside, the Caliph Armada held position. Overlord Zaroon watched the small human ship with amusement. He had crushed civilizations that tried to fight. He had broken species that claimed courage. Humans would be no different. They will beg, Zaroon said to his advisors. They always do. What he did not know was that across the galaxy, 11 other human vessels, hidden, forgotten, underestimated, were waking up. What he did not know was that humanity had spent centuries mastering one skill above all others. Preparation. Back on the Horizon Dawn, Rhea gave her final order before the deadline began. Let them wait, she said calmly. Let them believe we are afraid. The countdown had started. And when it ended, the galaxy would learn the truth about humans. The alien fleet waited in perfect formation. That alone told Captain Rhea Calder everything she needed to know. The Caliph Imperium did not wait because it respected humans. It waited because it enjoyed watching fear grow. It waited because every other species always broke before the deadline. Humans never had. Inside the UNS Horizon Dawn, the mood had changed. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled the room. Now there was focus. Purpose. Quiet determination. Lieutenant Marek stood at his console, eyes scanning streams of data pouring in from systems that should not exist on a research ship. Captain, power output is stabilizing. But I don't understand how this is possible. These reactors, this technology, it's decades beyond anything public. Rhea nodded. Because it was never meant to be public. She walked slowly across the bridge, her boots echoing against the deck. 200 years ago, humanity received a message. A dying transmission from a species wiped out by the Caliph Imperium. It told us everything. How the Imperium worked. How they conquered. How they lied. She stopped beside the main display, where the alien fleet loomed like metal gods. They always offer mercy, she continued. They call slavery mercy. They call extinction order. They believe fear is universal. Marek looked up. And it isn't. Rhea met his eyes. Not to us. Deep within the ship, sealed doors opened that no crew member had ever been authorized to see. Massive structures unfolded, gravitic lenses, quantum anchors, reality-bending arrays designed by human minds that refused to accept limits. Chief Engineer Lena Okoye wiped sweat from her brow as systems came fully online. Captain, these weapons don't just target ships. I know, Rhea said quietly. They target infrastructure. Stars. Space-time itself. I know. Lena hesitated. If we use them, there's no going back. Rhea's voice was steady. There was never a way back. Outside, the countdown ticked closer to zero. Overlord Zaroon watched the human vessel through layers of tactical projections. His advisors whispered among themselves, confused by the energy fluctuations. They are stalling, one said. Perhaps they are preparing resistance. Zaroon let out a low, amused sound. Resistance is irrelevant. Their fear is visible even from here. Fear always betrays them. Another advisor leaned forward. My lord, the energy readings. Silence, Zaroon snapped. No species without an empire survives by bravery alone. He raised a clawed hand. Prepare the compliance broadcast. I want the entire crew to hear their fate. The Caliph signal punched through the Horizon Dawn's defenses without effort. The bridge screen lit up. Zaroon filled it. The cycle ends, he said. Kneel now, humans. Accept mercy. Rhea stepped forward. We refuse. The word echoed across the bridge. Zaroon blinked. Slowly. Confused. You misunderstand, he said. This is not negotiation. No, Rhea agreed. It's education. She tapped a control. Space changed. At first, it was subtle. Sensors across the Calith fleet screamed warnings. Gravity shifted. Light bent. Communication lagged by fractions of a second, enough to terrify experienced commanders. "What is happening?" one advisor shouted. Zaroon's eyes widened as tactical displays showed something impossible. The human ship was no longer at the center of the formation. It was everywhere. Quantum echoes of the Horizon Dawn appeared across the battlefield, each one identical, each one real enough to confuse targeting systems designed to conquer galaxies. "This is deception," Zaroon growled. "Fire!" 72 warships unleashed devastation. Beams tore through space. And hit nothing. The Horizon Dawn reappeared, untouched, behind the Calith flagship. Rhea's voice cut through the bridge. Phase 1 complete. Marek stared at the readings. "Captain, we just folded localized reality." "Yes," Rhea said. "Gently." Lena whispered, "Aliens think in straight lines. Humans don't." Zaroon roared in fury. "Destroy them." But the battlefield no longer obeyed Calith logic. Human technology did not overpower, it outthought. Gravitic snares collapsed enemy formations. Communication networks were flooded with paradox loops. Calith targeting systems began firing on their own allies, unable to distinguish truth from illusion. One by one, massive warships went dark, not destroyed, but frozen, trapped in pockets of distorted time. Rhea watched calmly. "We are not here to kill you," she said, opening a channel directly to Zaroon. "We are here to stop you." Zaroon's image flickered, rage replacing arrogance. "You are insects playing with forces you do not understand." Rhea's eyes hardened. "We understand fear. We understand loss. And we understand what happens when bullies are left unchecked." She gave the order. "Activate Atlas Phase 2. Far beyond the battlefield, something ancient and terrible stirred. Humanity's true answer to the Imperium was not a single ship. It was a network. Across the galaxy, hidden human vessels synchronized. Signals pulsed through subspace like a heartbeat. Targeting data spread, not for ships, but for worlds. Zaroon finally understood. "You would destroy entire civilizations," he hissed. "That makes you monsters." Rhea's reply was quiet. "No. It makes us guardians." The Calith Imperium had ruled through fear for millennia. In one moment, that fear changed direction. And for the first time in its history, the Imperium began to panic. The countdown reached 0. And humanity prepared to finish the lesson. Panic was not something the Calith Imperium understood. For 10,000 years, panic belonged to others. To the weak. To the conquered. To the species that screamed before their worlds went dark. But now, panic rippled through the Calith command network like a disease. On the bridge of the flagship throne of Dominion, alarms howled. Advisors shouted over one another. Tactical displays showed impossible data, frozen warships, broken formations, reality itself refusing to behave. Overlord Zaroon stood frozen, claws digging into the metal of his throne. "This is not possible," he growled. "No single species challenges the Imperium." But this was no longer a challenge. This was control. On the UNS Horizon Dawn, the human crew felt it too, the shift. The moment when the Predator realized it was no longer hunting. Lieutenant Marek's voice trembled, not with fear, but with awe. "Captain, Calith fleet coordination has collapsed. They're broadcasting emergency signals across their empire." Rhea Calder nodded slowly. "Good." Chief Engineer Lena Okoye leaned closer to her console. "Captain, if we proceed to Phase 3, there's no bluff left. They'll know we can do it." Rhea did not answer immediately. She looked at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there were Calith worlds. Cities. Children who had never chosen conquest. Never voted for slaughter. Humanity had learned this lesson painfully, over centuries of its own wars. Power always demanded restraint. "Open a channel to the Imperium's Central Command," Rhea said. Marek hesitated. Captain, they're still capable of retaliation. I know, Rhea replied. That's why they'll listen. The signal went out. Not a demand, not a threat. A conversation. Zaroon appeared on the screen again. But the Overlord who stared back was no longer confident. His golden-veined skin was darker now. His 4 eyes darted, searching. What do you want? He demanded. Rhea stepped forward. To end this. Zaroon let out a bitter sound. You expect surrender? No, Rhea said. We expect change. She gestured, and the display shifted. Kalith star systems appeared, dozens of them. Then hundreds. Strategic hubs. Military shipyards. Energy nexuses. Not targets. Hostages. We can collapse your empire in minutes, Rhea said calmly. Not by killing your people, but by removing your ability to rule them. Zaroon's advisors stared in horror. You would plunge trillions into chaos, Zaroon said. Rhea's eyes burned. You already did that to thousands of species. Silence filled the channel. For the first time, the Imperium faced a species that did not beg, did not rush, did not seek revenge. Humanity sought balance. We will not exterminate you, Rhea continued. But your expansion ends today. Withdraw from occupied systems. Free enslaved species. Dismantle your genetic harvesting programs. Zaroon laughed, broken and hollow. And if we refuse? Rhea leaned forward. Then your empire becomes a memory. Not through fire, but through irrelevance. Behind her words was something worse than destruction. Exposure. Human intelligence networks had already begun broadcasting evidence. Kalith atrocities, hidden massacres, erased cultures, to every corner of known space. The myth of Kalith invincibility was dying. Marek whispered, Captain, neutral systems are responding. They're mobilizing. Rhea smiled faintly. They were always afraid. Now they're brave. Zaroon's claws trembled. You would turn the galaxy against us. No, Rhea said softly. You did that yourself. Minutes passed. Then Zaroon spoke again, his voice lower. You are not conquerors. No, Rhea agreed. We are survivors. On a distant Kalith colony, workers paused as Imperial broadcasts cut out. On enslaved worlds, chains unlocked as control systems failed. On forgotten planets, species thought extinct looked up at unfamiliar stars and felt something dangerous. Hope. Across the galaxy, humanity's hidden ships remained silent, watching. Not attacking. Waiting. Atlas Protocol was not a weapon. It was leverage. Lena exhaled shakily. Captain, this goes against everything they believe. Empires don't stop. Rhea nodded. That's why they fall. Zaroon straightened slowly. Pride warred with survival in his eyes. The Imperium will withdraw, he said at last. But know this, human, your kind has declared itself a threat. Rhea did not flinch. So did fire, she replied. So did electricity. So did ideas. The channel closed. On the bridge, no one spoke for a long moment. Then Marek laughed, soft, disbelieving. We didn't just survive. No, Rhea said. We changed the rules. But far from celebration, something else stirred. Deep within the ruins of forgotten space, ancient observers had been watching the Kalith for millennia. Watching empires rise and fall. And now, they were watching humanity. One ancient signal pulsed outward, slow and deliberate. The Guardians have moved. The galaxy has changed. Rhea felt it, not through sensors, but instinct. This isn't over, she said quietly. Lena nodded. It never is. The Horizon Dawn turned slowly, its mission no longer one of exploration, but responsibility. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage. And the universe was paying attention. The galaxy did not celebrate humanity. It watched. In the weeks after the Kalith Imperium withdrew, silence spread across regions that had known only fear for thousands of years. Slave collars fell inert. Imperial banners burned. Entire species tasted freedom for the first time in living memory. And with freedom came uncertainty. On the bridge of the UNS Horizon Dawn, Captain Calder studied the incoming data streams. Messages arrived from everywhere, some full of gratitude, some full of suspicion, some full of warning. Lieutenant Marek stood beside her. "Captain, independent systems are asking if we plan to replace the Imperium." Rhea shook her head. "We didn't tear down a tyrant to become one." "But they don't know that," Marek said quietly. "No," Rhea agreed. "And that's the problem." Humanity had shattered an empire, but power left a vacuum. And the galaxy had learned something dangerous. Humans could win. Far from Kalith space, on a station older than human history, ancient beings stirred. They called themselves the Custodians, watchers who believed the galaxy must never change too fast. They had allowed empires to rise and fall, as long as balance remained. Humanity broke balance. On the Custodian Council platform, a being of shifting light spoke. The Kalith ruled through fear. Humans rule through disruption. Another replied, "Disruption spreads faster than conquest." A third voice, colder than the void, concluded, "They must be tested." Back on the Horizon Dawn, alarms chimed again, but this time, not from weapons. "Captain," Lena Okoye said, her voice tense. "We're detecting something massive. Not ships. Not energy. It's like a presence." Space ahead folded inward, not violently, but with impossible precision. A structure emerged that did not look built. It looked grown. Rings of light, shadow, and matter intertwined in shapes the human mind struggled to follow. Every system on the ship strained just to observe it. A voice filled the bridge, not through speakers, but directly inside their thoughts. "Humans. You have altered the flow." Several crew members gasped. One collapsed to his knees. Rhea stood firm. "Identify yourself." "We are the Custodians." Marek whispered, "Captain, they're older than any known civilization." "You destroyed a pillar of galactic order," the voice continued. "You did so without consensus. Without permission." Rhea's jaw tightened. The Kalith enslaved and exterminated thousands of species. "They were predictable," the Custodian replied. "You are not." Silence pressed down on the bridge like gravity. "Power without oversight leads to ruin," the voice said. "You will submit to evaluation." Lena looked at Rhea. "Captain, if they decide we're a threat." "They won't," Rhea said calmly. "Because we won't give them a reason." She stepped forward, mind blazing with defiance. "We didn't act for dominance. We acted for survival. And justice." "All claim this," the Custodian replied. Rhea shook her head. "Then look." She authorized data release, uncensored. Human history. Humanity's wars. Its failures. Its slow, painful learning curve. The times humans chose restraint when destruction was easier. She showed them Earth, scarred, healed, scarred again. "We are not perfect," Rhea said. "But we change. We adapt. And when we're wrong, we learn." The Custodians were silent for a long time. Time itself seemed to hesitate. Finally, the voice returned, less cold. "You could have destroyed the Kalith completely. You did not." "Why?" Rhea answered without hesitation. "Because fear breeds monsters. We know. We've been them." The structure pulsed softly. "You accept limitation?" "Yes," Rhea said. "But not submission." The Custodians withdrew slightly, conferring among themselves in ways humans could not perceive. On Earth, leaders watched the same exchange with held breath. Humanity stood at a second judgment, one that would define its place forever. At last, the Custodian spoke again. "Humanity will not be restrained. Nor will it rule." Rhea frowned. "What does that mean?" "You will be observed. You will be challenged. If you fall, you will fall by your own hands." The structure began to dissolve back into nothingness. Before it vanished completely, The voice delivered its final words. The galaxy does not need new gods. It needs guardians. Silence returned. On the bridge, several crew members exhaled shakily. Some laughed. Some cried. Marek wiped his face. So, we passed. Rhea looked out at the stars. We were warned. Freedom came with responsibility. Across liberated systems, species began rebuilding, not under human command, but with human help. Engineers, medics, teachers traveled where warships once ruled. Humanity did not claim the throne. It dismantled it. But not everyone welcomed that choice. In the shadows, remnants of the Caliph plotted revenge. Other empires watched, calculating. And deeper still, unknown forces shifted, curious about the strange species that refused to kneel or dominate. Rhea felt the weight settle on her shoulders. We stood tall, she said quietly. Lena nodded. Now we have to stay human. The horizon dawn turned once more toward the unknown. Because the greatest challenge was still ahead. The galaxy did not explode into war. That surprised everyone. After the fall of the Caliph Imperium, many expected chaos, revenge wars, rising tyrants, endless bloodshed. History suggested that when a great power collapsed, something worse rushed in to replace it. Humanity refused to let that happen. Not with fleets. Not with threats. But with presence. Across former Caliph space, human ships arrived, not warships, but carriers, hospitals, engineers, diplomats. Where chains once hung, schools were built. Where fear ruled, communication networks were restored. Humans did not govern. They assisted, advised, and then stepped back. It confused the galaxy. On the bridge of the UNS Horizon Dawn, Captain Rhea Calder watched reports stream in. Species long erased from records were rebuilding. Former slave worlds had formed councils. Old enemies were negotiating borders instead of bombing them. Lieutenant Marek smiled faintly. They're doing it, Captain. On their own. Rhea nodded. That's the point. Humanity had learned something critical. Freedom meant nothing if it depended on another master, even a kind one. But peace never goes unchallenged. In the shattered remains of the Caliph Imperium, a final faction rose. Led by a warlord known only as Vila the Last, they rejected surrender, rejected reform, rejected reality. Vila believed one thing above all others. If humans could bleed, they could be broken. His fleet was smaller, but desperate. And desperation was dangerous. When Vila struck, he did not attack humans. He attacked the newly freed. Worlds without defenses. Species still learning to stand. The message was clear. Look what happens when humans leave. The galaxy held its breath. On Earth, leaders debated. Intervening directly would prove the custodians right. Doing nothing would prove the Caliph right. Rhea already knew the answer. We don't fight for them, she said to the council. We fight with them. The response was immediate. Human ships did not arrive alone. They arrived beside Allied vessels, crewed by former slaves, rebuilt navies, united systems flying flags never seen before. Humans shared technology, strategy, training, but not control. Vila did not face humanity. He faced the galaxy. The final battle did not last long. When Vila's flagship fell, his last transmission echoed across open channels. You replaced one empire with another, he spat. Rhea's reply was broadcast everywhere. No, she said. We ended the age of empires. The wreckage drifted silently, a tombstone to an idea that no longer worked. In the aftermath, the custodians returned, watching, waiting. This time, their presence felt different. You have not claimed dominion, their voice echoed. You have not retreated into fear. Rhea stood on the bridge, calm as ever. We chose responsibility. This path is rare, the custodian replied. And fragile. Rhea smiled faintly. So are humans. The ancient beings faded away, leaving no judgment behind, only acceptance. Years passed. Humanity became something unexpected. Not rulers. Not saviors. But the species others called when hope seemed impossible. Humans became mediators, engineers of peace, builders after war. They still fought when necessary. They still failed sometimes. But they never forgot the lesson written in the ruins of the Caliph Imperium. Power was not about domination. It was about restraint. On a quiet night aboard the Horizon Dawn, Rhea stood once more at the viewing window. Stars stretched endlessly ahead, unknown, dangerous, beautiful. Marek joined her. "Do you ever wish we'd stayed explorers?" Rhea smiled softly. "We still are." She gestured to the galaxy. "We're just exploring what kind of future is worth fighting for." Somewhere, far beyond human maps, new civilizations watched humanity rise, not with fear, but curiosity. And for the first time in galactic history, that curiosity was returned. The galaxy had expected humans to beg for mercy. Instead, humanity taught it something far more powerful: how to stand, how to choose, how to be better. And that lesson would echo among the stars forever.